All right, guys, and welcome to day number 1 of our 30-day Q&A. I'm super excited with this, and I have been pretty impressed with the amount of questions that have been submitted. I've gone ahead and randomly selected one, and honestly, the reason I selected it is because there's a fair bit of detail in here. I'm going to read the question to you. I've already taken a few notes to make sure I hit all the points I want to, because I want to make sure that in each of these videos, each of these questions that I answer, I'm bringing as much value to Amanda, in this case, who asked the question, and to any of you guys that are taking the time to listen to these. Now, for those that don't have this exact problem with their horse, now just keep in mind, listen for those underlying themes and principles that are going to be mentioned throughout this, because this is a question that is loaded with those, and you'll be able to bring as much value to you and your horse along the way, especially in those moments when you don't quite expect something to happen. Might seem out of nowhere, which it's a false statement with horses, but something happens that you didn't quite expect, and you can put this to work. So let's go ahead and dive into Amanda's question. Amanda says, my mare has good fitting tack. Everything is in alignment as she has regular chiropractor visits. We have a rope boselle, including the noseband, which means that she's riding in what I would consider a loping hackamore, and that she responds wonderfully to the loping hackamore. But every time I ride, all she wants to do is lope. So every time Amanda rides her horse, all that horse wants to do is lope. So she's fine at the walk, but when we start trotting, she gets hot and just wants to lope. I have done groundwork to get her warmed up and to focus before we ride, but it doesn't matter what I try to stop. It doesn't matter what I try to get her to stop taking off. She blows me off. Changing directions, whether it's a rollback, inside turn, change of direction on the diagonal, stopping, starting, transitions, patterns to her mind, and to get her to think on what I'm asking, nothing works. So she is trying all sorts of exercises to get this horse's mind to come back to her. And in her words, the horse just keeps blowing her off. So her question is, how do I fix this goofy problem? Well, Amanda, that is a dang good question. How do we fix this goofy problem? Now, I'm going to go ahead and dive into this. I'm going to dissect this question, pull out quotes in here so you guys can really see how my mind works and why I'm going to answer this the way I do. And so the first thing as I went through this, it says all she wants to do is lope. And then in the very next sentence, what we hear is she's fine at the walk, but when we start trotting, she gets hot and just wants to lope. So all she wants to do is lope, but when we're at the walk, she's fine. Then when we start trotting, she wants to lope. So the mare doesn't just want to lope, because you can get on her and you can walk her around. And if you're doing your groundwork, it doesn't sound like she's coming out and she's just loping circles. Or some horses, for example, you can turn them in a round pen and they just start cantering, right? And whether they want to is a whole different thing, because if we let the horse do what they would do on their own, does that horse just start loping circles? Probably not. So what that means is that there's another layer to this. The horse may not necessarily be loping because it wants to. And I'm going to get into why that's the case, because I got an answer for that part. But it's really important, Amanda, when we dissect this question, is that to really read your words. Like, these words are really important in what we use. And I'm not trying to be picky, but I am going to be picky I'm going to be particular, because these words tell us a lot about what's going on with our horses and in our own minds. So we notice that it's not true that all she wants to do is lope, because you're able to walk her around, okay? And then it doesn't matter what I try is the next thing that you said. But you are willing to try something new because you sent this question in, right? So you're willing to take some advice, and I can promise you that if you do exactly what I tell you to do here, how I tell you to do it, it will work, because I've done it with hundreds of horses. At this point, maybe thousands of horses with the exact exercise. Exact exercises, but also the approach and the philosophy behind what I'm going to explain to you. But I want to go through your question piece by piece, because this is really insightful for us as people to understand kind of where our mindset is at, and understand that sometimes if we just change the way we're looking at things, it's the Wayne Dyer quote, change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. Sometimes we have to look at how we're looking at those things, and then also it gives us better insight to how our horses are looking at those things. And when we can see them for what they are, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. That horse hits the trot and wants to lope off. That is what it is, right? So we'll get into that part, which is actually my next statement. She blows me off, all right? She blows me off. This has a lot of context to it, okay? What does she blows me off means? Well, it means, the first thing it means is you're breaking rule number 2. And that means rule number 2 from the 4 agreements, Don Miguel's book, is don't take anything personally. This rule is a golden rule with horsemanship and horses in general. Don't take anything personally. It is what it is. Horses quite literally do not have the ability to strategize, to premeditate, to rationalize like people do because they don't have the physical parts. We both have a frontal lobe. Ours is much more developed than our horses. And the frontal lobe is where the rationalization, the strategizing, the premeditation comes into place. Our horses don't have the ability to do that. Our horses are going to do what they think they need to do and what they would like to do based on the current circumstances. So the idea that your horse is blowing you off, it's not the case. It's not the case. And that's good news because it's not personal, right? She's not doing it just to you. She would do this with somebody else as well if they were doing the exact same things that you're doing with your horse. So the fortunate part is, you know what that tells us? If we change the way we're looking at it, if we change the way we're doing a few things, our horses will change. Guaranteed. Absolutely. Might take some time, but she's going to make the change. So Amanda, stick with me here. And so the physical exercises that you're doing really fits into a specific philosophy, a specific principle, which is you can move the feet to get to the mind, right? So you're trying rollbacks, you're trying changes of direction, you're trying transitions, you're trying all these different exercises to get this horse's mind with you. However, it's not quite working right now. And the way that this works, the way that this philosophy and this principle works, that if you're going to work the feet to get to the mind, the only way that that works is if you release and you take away the pressure, because horses learn of the release of pressure. They do not learn from increasing the pressure, and I can get into that in a second. But the release of the pressure means way more to a horse than the amount of pressure that we apply to them mentally or physically, okay, and even emotionally. Like, we could tap into that. So if you're going through all those exercises and we're missing the moments where a horse checks in, where a horse makes a mental shift to come back to you, and we miss that, that is that horse communicating, that is that horse making a change and saying, hey, I'm with you. And if we're busy trying to move their feet because we're focused, we want to feel them really do that maneuver. And so, Amanda, what I get the feeling is, and this is not just you, this is like 99.9% of the rest of the people out there that are watching this video and that have horses, is that when we're working the feet to get to the mind, a lot of times we're waiting for it to feel really good in the feet. And the problem with that is that we're looking for a physical result. Yet the reason that we're doing these exercises is to get the horse's mind. So it really doesn't matter how well the horse does the exercise in the beginning, because we're not doing all these physical movements for the physical result. We're doing it for the mental result. So that's really important, that while we're going through the rollbacks and the changes of direction and the transitions and all those things, that we're looking for the mind to come back to us, and we can feel that with him. This is a constant communication. So exercise that I'm going to share with you in this is what I call, I would refer to it as your ear exercise. So when I look at my horse's ears and they're out in front of me, right? Got my little horse's ears here. They're like direct antennas to your horse's brain. Those ears, when they're thinking that direction, they're pointed that direction. If you're going your horse around and they have their outside ear pointed forward because they're kind of paying attention to where they're going, and they got that inside ear flicked back to you, and it's actually paying attention to you and not just something they heard behind you, then you know where that horse's mind is at. And so what I like to do is I like to ride my horse, quote unquote, with little air quotes here, by their ears. So if I'm riding my horse around, even at the walk, and say both ears go forward, and I feel that in their body, their mind is so far forward that I've kind of lost the ability to influence them. I lost the ability to kind of interject in their thought process and get their attention back. I could just take my inside rein, which might be my right rein for this example, might take my right rein and just make a slight contact to where I can feel physical pressure of the corner of the horse's mouth, or in your loping hackamore, you would just feel a physical contact on the outside of that horse's face with your inside rein. And I will hold that rein contact until I visually see the inside ear flick back to me. Okay? And what that does is I did a physical thing. I took a physical contact of that horse's face and I released when I saw a physical thing, which was the ear flick, which is the soonest thing that I could see of when that horse's mind came back to me. Now, as you build your awareness to what this feels like, you will be able to release almost as in time when the ear is coming back to you, which means you've really felt that horse make that mental change and you've released almost before that ear even got back to you. But don't worry about that going that far yet. Focus on taking that inside rein, and you'll do this at a walk, a trot, and a canter over a period of time. And you'll be able to take that inside rein, and when you get that ear flick, you've redirected that horse's mind from wherever it went back to you. This is how I recommend when I'm trail riding horses or I'm taking horses out in places they haven't been before. When I take a hold of the reins and I'm just checking in with my horse, I like to watch those ears. I like to watch those ears come back to me so that I can actually see, I get a visual representation of like, oh yeah, they're with me. Now, let's say your horse doesn't flick that inside ear. I'm going to take that contact, I'm going to hold on it, I'm waiting for that ear, and let's just say they get more and more bracy into that. I'm going to keep bending them, and I might get all the way to a hindquarter yield. But my focus is not on the physical of the feet. My focus is on the mind. So I'm really, really focused. I'm asking that horse to walk a tighter circle, and a tighter circle, and a tighter circle, and a tighter circle, because I'm trying to get my horse really focused on what's going on. But when their mind is checked out, we have to be careful about how much pressure we put on. Because in that instance, if their mind is away from us and we're saying, come back here, and we're putting a lot of pressure on them, why would they want to come back with us? Right? If we amp up all this pressure when they already want to be somewhere else, and we're like, gosh dang it, get back over here, and we get to kicking on them, and it gets emotional. It gets personal. Then they're going, I don't want to be with this two-legged critter on my back, because as soon like they're trying to make me do something. So what I try to do is, that doesn't mean that I won't put pressure on them. I might really have to start trotting them in some circles to get them thinking that direction. But again, what am I focused on? Getting them thinking in the direction that I'm traveling, and then releasing when they check in with me mentally. All right, so riding the ears, doing that left and right, being able to take the reins and influence that inside ear to come back there. You will start to feel changes in that horse's body, because as the mind gets centered, as the mind finds right where you're at and they get with you, their body gets in a more balanced position. They find better straightness, they find more suppleness, because the mind is there. If the mind's not there and you're trying to do physical maneuvers and their mind isn't there, you're running into all sorts of rigidness along the way, simply because their mind's not there. Right? So they can't perform those maneuvers to the best of their ability. And so I'm really focused on doing those types of things. And so you can use this instance of doing a rollback into a wall, and say you're riding your horse is with you, and they drift and you're next to the wall. You could use that rein closest to the wall to do a rollback that way to get the horse's mind. But if you get finished with that rollback and that horse is still checked out, keep going. Turn that rollback into a turn. Trot a circle, walk a circle, do something until that horse's mind comes back. The only way that working your horse's feet to get to their mind works is if you release when you get the mind. I know that is like, holy shit, like, excuse my French, but it's a piece of it that is missed so often, because we get so caught up on the physical part. Move their feet, move their feet, move their feet, move their feet. The more important part is release when you get the mind. All right, so I'm going to leave that alone, because I feel like I've hit that one pretty hard and clear. And so that's a big piece of it. And then the next part to keep in mind is that, so how do I fix this goofy problem? That's a really good question. How do I fix it? The first thing is there's really nothing to fix. Hate to break it to you, you don't have a problem. You just have a horse with a mindset that is ultimately looking for something a little bit better, which is a really good thing. Horses love to be present. Horses live in a more present mindset. So when I see a horse that exists not being present, you know what I get to be? I get to be the guy that gets them in a more present state of mind. I get to be the one that brings them back to center and helps them exist in a state of mind that they naturally enjoy living in. Actually, we would naturally enjoy living in it if we would spend the time meditating a little bit. So I really look at my sessions with my horses as a working meditation. That challenges us to go out there and go, hey, I want my horse to be more focused, more relaxed, more supple, more confident, more understanding by the end of this ride. And everything that I'm going to do with my horse during this ride is going to help that horse achieve that feeling. All right? So I want you to change your mindset, Amanda, a little bit. Challenge yourself here. You don't have something to fix. You just have a horse that goes, hey, when you're walking around, and I'm going to touch on this too, this is really important stuff here, is that you're walking your horse around and everything feels good. You've got them focused and relaxed on the ground. Okay, cool. But when you get on them, then you feel like you start to lose them when they hit the trough. There's a couple things that you can do here, and that is that you could increase the amount of pressure, the amount of stress that goes into your groundwork. So then you could ask the horse to be a little more responsive, and you could ask that horse to be a little more focused on the ground. That can help a horse be better prepared for under saddle. And I do this on my groundwork. I do this in the round pen, where I really look at that horse's mindset as they're going around. Is your horse going around your groundwork really focused and truly relaxed when they're going around? Some things they might be able to do is that when they're walk trotting and cantering, they might lick and chew while they're moving. That's a little advanced. They might be able to really go until you see the tension in their muzzle. Let them go until they take some big deep breaths and stretch down. Those types of things can get them relaxed while they're going. That's really, really important. But then can you escalate the amount of energy that you ask that horse to use and then bring them right back down? So even on a lunge line or even the round pen, can I ask that horse to flat out canter on a reason, without, like depending on how big the circle is, canter as fast as they can, then without them cross-firing and falling out of gait and all those types of things, and then let them come back right back down and walk on a loose rein or walk with that lead rope loose. Can they do that mentally? Can you bring their energy way up and can you bring it way down? And if you can rev it up but they can't bring it down, that's what you practice. It's like an accordion. It's like, hey, I'm going to take them straight up, and then when they get up there, I'm going to take them to where you don't want them to check out. So you take them as far as they can go before they're like, oh, I can't handle it anymore. You let them hang out there, get a little comfortable, and then bring it back down, and then let them come back down. And it might take a little bit of time for them to come back down. And then once they're down again, let them relax, let them reset, and then ask them to go again. And they have to practice getting comfortable with that as speed, because speed can evoke emotion. Now, when you're riding your horse around, Amanda, and you say, hey, I want my horse to trot, what happens is that they trot and they check out. So what would I do? I would go take that rein, just like I said, and wait for those ears. You might end all the way up into a one rein stop. All right, you could go all the way in to a one rein stop, wait, hold the flexion until that horse flicks their ear back to you and release. And you don't ask that horse to really walk off until they go, they're like, okay, I'm good. Now, if your horse walks off, you let them walk off. You might ask them to go ahead and go back to the trot, and then go ahead and steer with your seat. Use that inside rein, either direction, whichever direction you want to go, use that inside rein, bring that attention. If their mind is with you, they're not rushy because they're waiting on the next instruction from you. But if you take that rein and they brace and they think somewhere else, then you take that rein just a little bit more, and you do as you gather and you shorten the rein until that horse mentally comes back. And sometimes that might mean that you're back to that one rein stop, waiting for the horse to mentally check in. You can get the inside ear, you can watch the inside eye, flick back and really engage with you there. And you're waiting for softness in the pole and the loin. Softness in the pole and the loin, which would show up in softness in your hand, which the horse can only really do if they're mentally present. Now, they can give you physical softness without mental softness, and that's what we've been talking about. So you want to make sure that the horse mentally engages with you and becomes present in the moment. I've talked about the working meditation. So what your horse is doing is you're riding your horse trying to meditate, saying, hey, can you focus on this right here? Because when I'm riding my horses, I quite literally work with them on focusing on their breath, because if they're tight in their diaphragm, they can't engage their hindquarters. They can't truly be fully relaxed. because they're not taking deep enough breaths to really relax themselves. That's why box breathing and all those types of things are so good for us to meditate on, because we focus on our breath. I will ride my horses and get them to focus on their breath. When I place my inside leg against their side, it's to draw attention to some tension that they're carrying in their rib cage, so that then they can breathe deeper and truly relax and focus in the moment. And so when you pick up on that rein, the first thing you're doing is helping them focus and to relax. Those are the primary deals, focus and relaxation. Secondary is to teach them something. Secondary is to teach them something. So when a horse is trotting off and wants to lope off, then we're saying, hey, you're meditating and you got a little sidetracked. You started thinking about all this other stuff. Bring it back down, because the emotion, the energy went up, and now you get to be the person that brings them right back down. You're like the guided meditation coach that gets to help them feeling super present and more in the moment. This can take some time, but if you stay diligent to this, then what you're really working on is the horse's internal skills. These skills your horse can take with you wherever they go, whatever they do. But if you do not focus on getting the horse's mind with you and getting your horse to where they can control those emotions and they can bring it up and they can bring it down, and you try to keep going, getting the physical maneuvers, then this stuff will always come back to haunt us, because with it not being taken care of, we're going to run into issues later, because ultimately the way that we get our horses performing the best, the way that our horses get so safe, are those horses that are mentally present and there with us in each moment. In turn, when we get that going, all that other stuff, the rushiness, the anxiety, those things tend to fade, and the physical maneuvers get so much better. So this is a really, I did not expect this to go for 20 minutes. I was trying to keep it under 10. But again, I am here to bring you all as much value in this 30-day Q&A. We're only on day 1. This is video number 1. You guys, wherever you're watching this now, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever it is, you can also check this out on the Heart of Horsemanship podcast. We're going to be answering those as well. Just ask you find us on Facebook or Instagram. You click like, you follow us there, as well as on YouTube. We got over 175 videos. And this is all free content. We're bringing it to you for absolutely for free. All we do is you ask that you might share it with some friends if you found it super insightful. And if you want your questions answered, you can go ahead and submit them. You go to the Colton Woods Horsemanship community group, or you can send us a DM on Facebook or on Instagram, and we're going to be taking your questions over the next 30 days. And so more specifics, the better for your questions. But guys, remember, it doesn't just have to be about horses. We're here to develop. We're focused on horse and human development. There's some people that are asking, what kind of bread recipe do you make? Some people that follow us pretty closely know that I like to bake bread, make smoothies in the morning. You might be asking about physical fitness or anything like that goes into your career, that go into your interest with you and your horses. And so we're here to help you with that. And we really cannot wait to see you. We got lots of exciting things, like we're going to be at Equitana 2020 this year. But nonetheless, guys, day 1 of our 30-day Q&A. Go ahead and send us your questions. Join the Colton Woods Horsemanship community group on Facebook. It's free. It's open to everybody. We got a great group of like-minded people in there. And secret coming out right now, only you guys that watch this at the very end will know, is that we're launching an ebook that's going to be free. A free ebook on how to be the best leader for your horse. If that's something you're interested in, put that down in the comments below and be like, just put ebook, or I want the ebook, or whatever you want. Put some emojis in there. Share this with your friends. And guys, we will catch you tomorrow right here on our 30-day Q&A for day number 2. So you guys have a blessed day. Talk to you later. My name's Colton Woods, and thanks for watching.